Listeners, you have 30 minutes to escape the planet. What route are you going to take? Are you going to go through that hidden wall? Remember to scan around and bomb every block on your way out. But while you do so, feel free to listen to us here on the Scrollies podcast. I am SqatCobblr, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Hey, what's up? It's Team Ratnado and bad podcast design. How dare you not tell me where everything is and where this podcast is going to go from the start? Unbelievable, but I'll stay nonetheless.
Bad cast design. That's what we're calling them now in the biz. Casts.
I should know where this podcast is going to go at every second, okay? It should never take me on a journey.
Yeah, you should just go straight, right? In the direction you've always been going? That just makes sense. Why would you ever go backwards?
Hey, listener, I want to see if you can sequence break this podcast. Wait, no, actually, no, don't go ahead. Just come back. Just, you know what? Let's just play it straight.
But there's a secret alternate discussion if they get that part of the podcast early, Ratnado. Don't you want them to see that? Don't you want them to see what we included for their sequence break?
No, definitely not. So like Main's like, yeah, I sequence broke the podcast. I jumped to the end somehow, and I only listened to it for 2 minutes.
Well, props to you, Maintainer. You were able to get out of the exploding planet just in time. You know, fun fact, Ratnado.
Yeah.
In the Metroid series, the only celestial body that hasn't been destroyed that Samus has stepped foot on in the 2D games is her current spaceship. Everything else has gotten blowed up.
Oh man, that's hey, next 2D or whatever, shrink for whatever reason. This time Samus is shrunk down and she's on the ship, and she has to escape it at the end. Call me Nintendo. I have ideas.
The Minish helmet. Yeah. How many planets did Death Star blow up? Like 1.5?
Yeah.
I guess Rogue One, it like barely blew up any planets because they couldn't actually do that with the first movie being the first one to blow up a planet. But nonetheless,
they really messed up Scarif.
Samus has blown up way more planets than Death Star did.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Just, you know, massive craters and a blowed up planet. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Ratnado, we're here to discuss a very particular game, one that was heavily hyped for me that I played upon release, and one that you waited a little bit to play, but now is, in retrospect, incredibly hyped.
Yeah.
So we'll be getting to that in a moment. Before we do, what you been playing, Ratnado?
Speaking of hyped Nintendo games, whether over or under or perfectly, sauteed to a medium rare hype, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom.
You and the rest of the Which platform?
My every friend of mine, it was like 6 people yesterday. Tears of the Kingdom, Tears of the Kingdom, Tears of the Kingdom.
In the middle of my Metroid 2 on Game Boy stream, I took a moment to pause and go to my friends list and see who all was online playing Tears of the Kingdom. It was less than I thought because I had the notifications coming up the whole time, but I think people were like hopping in and out of it. So we had 4 friends online, yourself being one of them, all playing Tears of the Kingdom at the point that I checked. But I'm sure there was more earlier than that.
And it's great. I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it as a medium rare hyped for me. I wasn't fully well cooked on it. It wasn't undercooked. I think it's really good. I enjoy it. It still has some of the flaws that I was worried about so far, but I've really only played like the tutorial. I was just messing around. I will say that. Maybe not the best for stream, or good, depending on, I guess, if you just want to come hang out with me. But just like messing around, trying stuff, I had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I'm gonna keep playing it. Who knows how long it'll take me to finish? But
nothing more fun and exciting than hopping into a stream and just sandboxing around.
Good and bad. I think some people are like, let's move on. I'm also like that a little bit. But what about you, SqatCobblr?
I mean, well, first of all, we won't get too into it with Tears of the Kingdom, considering one, it's brand new, just came out the last week. But how could you not have heard 10 out of 10s across the board? Just seems like it's everything everyone ever wanted and then some. I did, in a moment of weakness, take to Google shortly before the game released and typed in, does Tears of the Kingdom have blank? Okay, does Tears of the Kingdom have blank? Okay, does Tears of the Kingdom have blank? Ah, too bad.
Oh.
So, I kind of know what to expect in terms of the things I've wanted out of the game.
Yeah.
But I will be picking it up after Metroid May.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I actually beat those games before I dive into a whole nother one, because the game that was supposed to tide me over until Tears of the Kingdom, Jedi Survivor, I want to thoroughly enjoy this game, Ratnado. So far as what the game's presenting to me, it seems like it's going to be a good time, but EA has made it absolutely impossible for me to actually enjoy this game as it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yep.
And we'll be talking a little bit more about that in a future episode, but I picked it up on PC. Let's just say I, at the moment, cannot even launch the game, so that makes me very sad. And I think I'm going to put it on the back burner for a couple months until patches come out, until I can actually enjoy it for what it is and not for how it performs. It's a sad reality, Ratnado.
Understandably, I'm pretty excited. I'm hopeful for it. I haven't gotten it yet.
Don't get it yet. I have heard it's better on PS5 now, but there's still heavy issues with it there. So the best platform to actually play on right now is Xbox, from what I've understood.
Yeah, I've got a PS5, so from what I've seen some other people play it. Shout out to my friend Brilliant as well. And it handles a little bit better on PS5. And I thought I will pick it up at some point. It's not a thing where I'm like, if it drops, or like, I will get it eventually.
Very well, very well. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it at the moment. The opening on Coruscant was pretty dope. Beyond that, I don't know if you know much about the planets, but there is a big planet that you go to next, and I have only scratched the surface of what that has to offer. So I will be returning to that part of the Star Wars galaxy in due time, probably well after Metroid May and Tears of the Kingdom, so that we have ample time for the patches to course correct.
Good and bad.
But right, NATO, we're going to talk about a game now that had no bugs, that ran super smooth, and that, well, you may say, has a bit of blastin' in it. Metroid Dread December has come to its conclusion in, what do you call it, Metroid, yeah. We couldn't afford to license Metroid May, so we made it a knockoff version in tribute to Metroid May. You know, it does come at a high price, so understandable, but nonetheless, it's finally been completed. It's finally been done did. You got the Zero Mission artwork at the end, which I think is the worst ending on normal mode, but nonetheless, it was your first playthrough, so that's fine. I think that's what I got my first time around.
So anyway, I started blasting every single wall, just in case I could go through it.
Pew, 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 pew. You're gonna just hear this for the next 20 minutes, everyone. Yeah, Metroid Dread. Man, let me tell you, it was a wait. Quite a long wait. I did not have to wait as long as people who actually waited, considering I didn't get into the series really until like 2016.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just 5 years away.
Yeah.
About that. Other people were waiting on this game for 15 years. It was announced first back in 2006, I want to say, somewhere around there. Shortly after Zero Mission.
Yeah.
As a DS title. It was supposed to be coming out then, and nothing ever came of it. People waited. People expected it to be maybe released on the 3DS after that.
Yeah.
On the Wii U. On anything.
Anything.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it'll be a mobile game. Nintendo was doing that for a while.
They did put their hand in that.
So, E3 2021. Nintendo Direct revealed not Metroid Prime 4, as we've been waiting on for long enough that 2 entire 2D Metroid games have come out in the meantime.
Yeah.
They announced not Metroid Prime 4, but Metroid 5, the continuation of the long dormant 2D series since Fusion. Okay, let's see what they got. They might as well have announced Half-Life 3, everyone. I don't think it's really understood today quite how insane it was that Metroid Dread not only wasn't canceled, but kept its title over 15 years. I'd say the wait was worth it in a lot of ways. Everything I wanted out of the game, I basically got, minus one, that I guess we'll talk about. Story-wise, everything gameplay-wise, and I guess like mechanic-wise, I was very happy with. But
yeah.
Ratnado, you have very freshly completed this game. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I literally finished it in the lead up to this No, just kidding.
The credits are rolling right now.
That's a Reliant K fan reference.
Saturday K fan.
No, yeah, I finished it a few days ago, and I had a lot of fun with it. Truly, I mean, I also have like kind of, I remember when Metroid Samus Returns came out on 3DS, and that was a big deal. And that was another point where I almost jumped onto it. I had some friends I worked with who were like, "Oh man, this new Metroid is really good," and I'm like, I'm not really a Metroidvania guy. It kind of didn't scratch the itch for me at the time. Dread, almost immediately, it truly was kind of difficult to not play it for the months I did in between. And the only reason I didn't is because the internet was like struggling.
I do remember that. You wanted to give it its proper due time without constant interruptions. And
yeah.
I waited for that reason. I said, you know what? Dread December will return. Yeah. Hopefully before the next actual Dread December.
Yeah. And the internet had picked up. I mean, and that's why I kind of felt confident, like having run through it with Final Fantasy, tons of Final Fantasy 14. You know, bless, shout out MP Rhett, Vivian, Ultra Guy, all the people who were there, like Rexel, for like watching that through with me and being like, a 10-minute internet drop, oh my gosh, but we'll stick with you. And that led me to the point where I kind of felt comfortable being like, okay, I'm just gonna keep streaming and I'm gonna do my best. And thank goodness the internet's back, because Dread is really, really good. I had so much fun with it. It's like one of those games that I've actually kind of gone back to, if only just because it's so fun to run around the map and get everything, and even just go and explore it all so that the whole map is unlocked.
Indeed. You know, I honestly don't think you could have picked a better time to take a break with it, because the game's basically in two halves. I got spoilers for Dread going forward. If you want to play Metroid Dread for the story, then here's your warning. But before the X is released, that's basically half the game, and then after the X is released is basically the other half of the game. So yeah, you basically stopped right before that, right before you go to Elun, the little fusion-like area that Proc actually didn't hate.
Oh, yeah.
Despite it being the most fusion-like of the entire game.
Fusion-y. Yeah, no, it was really good. And I'm glad, too. And I'm gonna do a hard mode playthrough. I don't know about what is the, like, one-hit kill, but that's like,
oh, that's dread mode. That's
dread mode.
Yeah, I have yet to. I dread that upcoming playthrough, but it will no doubt happen at some point, but not before my single stream playthrough of Dread. Else I watch Frozen 2 at the behest of Kat, who is the best Metroid Dread player. You know, I learned so much from Kat's playthrough of Metroid Dread. Was going to her for all kinds of hints and tips, and you know, Kat wouldn't give them to me because she wanted to see me learn them on my own, which, you know, I understand that. Thank you, Kat.
You would enjoy the journey more that way.
Thank you for pushing me to be my best self.
Yeah, no, Kat beat it in 5 hours, so incredible.
Oh, yeah, we remember when it happened in October 2021. Who could forget?
Yeah, no, I want to say that it is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, like you said, your wait hasn't been as long. I've not been, like, I know Metroid. I thought the first one was pretty fun. I remember playing the NES one and being like, oh yeah, this is cool. I've dabbled, I've played Super Metroid before, but never like gotten that far into it. Because like I say, when I was younger, the genre kind of just didn't appeal to me, and in the last year or two, it's finally started to like click, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. And it is crazy. Like, this game came out, it handles super well, it's beautiful, it plays like butter. That's the best part of it. Like, it just feels so good. Like, people when they talk about Hollow Knight, I'm like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying. This is truly like, it opens up so much the world, and it just feels, it's fun to just run around.
100%. For the longest time, I was just a Super Metroid stan. I still am in many ways, but not in this way. This way has changed. Everyone who is a Zero Mission stan is like, it just controls so like snappy and quick and fast, and you know, you just go pew pew pew, zip all over. And I'm like, yeah, the controls are like not as floaty as Super Metroid, but you're also dealing with like half the buttons on the GBA, so a lot of things are consolidated down. So the aiming scheme, you don't have the 2 buttons to aim, you have the 1. Obviously, like the missile placement, that's different, that's fine where it is. But there's no run button, and that's honestly for me, the auto speed booster is like something I'm really not a fan of in the GBA Metroid games. I want my run button, and Dread brought it back. It's not quite in the same way as Super, you don't really build up momentum quite like it, but you're working with far more buttons than you've ever had, which makes the moves a lot more easy to manage. Now, I do wish they had a little bit of control customization, considering they had that like in all the other 2D games up to that point.
Yeah.
Since Super.
Yeah.
But you know, there are ways around it, whether you're playing on the Switch or elsewhere. Yo-ho, matey. There are ways to change your control scheme to suit your preference. It's just not super easy in-game to make it happen. Nonetheless, this is probably the best control scheme of any Metroid game. now belongs to Metroid Dread in my mind.
Yeah, so and I noticed this a lot in the map of like as you said that about talking about auto running, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is. I didn't really use it that much, and that's because I had pulse shift, and the maps were like small enough or like designed in such a way it was such a good combination of jumping and running and gunning, and that pulse shift really made me feel like I was going so fast through the game. Like I never felt like once in a while I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta run so far, and only then I remembered I could click in and do that. But anyways, the level design is fun and pleasing to play. I don't know, itches the brain just right.
I think you meant to say bad game design, but Pulse Shift is easily the best new item in my opinion. It's just it's so useful during boss fights. So easy for traversal and for course correction, and just usable in so many different ways. I think they really took a step up from how Aeon was incorporated in Samus Returns to having it in Dread as just a recharging bar that fills up when you move, as opposed to droppable ammunition.
Yeah.
Now, on the topic of Samus Returns, I should say I did pick up a 3DS for that game specifically in 2017 when the Switch was already out. So I certainly can say a bit about that game as well. I'm playing through it again right now for the first time since release on stream. So check that out if you're interested, listener. But it's definitely an action game. I think that's probably what Mercury Steam was going for. Very snappy movements, not quite as good as Dread, but probably one of the better control schemes of the 2D series up to that point. And the parry move, all introduced in Samus Returns. That said, I think Dread has basically invalidated any reason to go back to Samus Returns unless you want to just like experience where Dread came from and that version of the story from Mercury's Theme, because Dread has just surpassed it in every single way that it basically replaces it. I can say that now, having gone back to it after having played Dread. Plus, Mercury's Theme may not have been the best choice to remake that particular Metroid entry. However, I do think they're the best choice for Metroid as a whole, because they actually wanted to make a Metroid game, and Nintendo probably wouldn't have even bothered unless they came to them and said, hey, we want to make this game for you. So, Mercury's Theme, fully responsible for Dread coming into existence as it is now, and we are pretty happy with it, so I hope they continue with the series going forward. I'll tell you what, Ratnado, here were the things I wanted out of Dread, and I'll tell you which of them I got, which one I did not. So, having waited for not as long as most, but pretty long for another new 2D entry, I wanted from Dread, Metroids Don't Come Back, Ridley Don't Come Back, because every time they do since Super Metroid, it just feels so shoehorned. Because like you're just like making an excuse to like bring these iconic things back, and like it just doesn't really make sense for the story. In Fusion, like okay, sure, I get it. In Other M, I'm like, it's dumb. And you know, other than that, they basically just said all the games that they want to have Metroids in before Metroid 2 because they get exterminated in that one. Like the Prime games, like you know. Zero Mission. So that didn't happen in Dread, thankfully. The X did come back, and that could have gone really bad, but I think it was handled in such a good way that I was fine with it. I wanted new items, which we got. We got the Pulse Shift, we got the Spider Magnet, which is just kind of a more, upgraded version of the Spider Ball. Along with a few other abilities. Storm Missile was brought over from Prime, and I think, honestly, the whole arsenal in Dread is pretty well utilized, with maybe two exceptions. The one that's like the cross bomb, where you can just like bomb over gaps. I barely use that. I think it's just really useful for like getting through that one little section and then for getting items after that. And then the you even brought this up, and I thought it was funny because I thought the exact same thing. But the spin boost, which is just the double jump, which immediately like 2 items afterward gets replaced by the space jump. It's like, okay, well, this is like pretty much just a useless upgrade at that point.
They had to limit some things from you for like that tiny amount of time between them, I guess.
It just would have made sense, like maybe give you the double jump like 5 items before instead of 2 items before, but I don't know. It's fine. It's just like it has such a short-lived like usefulness before it basically just gets like totally brushed over. It's like, okay, well. So aside from that, the arsenal's great. The one thing that I wanted story-wise that didn't get followed up on from Fusion was the fact that at the end of Fusion, Samus betrays the Federation, goes against their orders, and blows up all the evidence of X and Metroids and the entire planet, basically. So everything's gone. The Federation cannot use them as a weapon. They cannot use them for further research that may turn to nefarious needs. It was a whole big question mark cliffhanger, like, oh, are they going to go after Samus for this? Is she going to become hunted, considering she now has the last Metroid DNA in her? And turns out, no, not really. They're cool with her again. I guess they're just gonna, say, whatever, it happened, and
yeah, what is she gonna do?
Go.
Well, that's Samus.
Yeah, it's Samus. We're probably better off not going up against her. I did do a little bit of research, and it turns out that entire story thread was a localized mistranslation of the Japanese original text, which pretty much in that version identified it as just a few individuals within the Federation that had nefarious purposes. But I'm gonna be honest, it's way more interesting to have the entire Federation, like, with this dark side out to do exactly what the Space Pirates did. And I don't know, I kind of wish they had followed up on that aspect of the translation rather than the original version. But so Sakamoto, he's basically like calling dibs on the entire Metroid franchise at this point. And hey, Dread was his baby, so I will let it rest. That said, I don't see how this can be a fitting end for the entire 2D series, and nor do I think it will be, considering how well Dread sold compared to the rest of the games, that they're just going to end it here. Because that's what they were saying when it released, that it was the end of the storyline, all the way from Metroid NES to now. And sure, maybe it is in the sense that Metroids, the floating jelly organism, is no longer going to be a factor, but I mean, Samus straight up is the last Metroid now. She has the Metroid suit. Whether or not that's going to come back, I don't know. I hope it does, because it looks really cool. But
yeah,
the storyline going forward will, I think, be centered around that and not around the threat of the Metroids returning.
And what I really liked about that is that it did tie everything up. Really, a lot of this stuff I know kind of offhand. I didn't play every single game. Like I said, I played Fusion. I've played the first one. I played a little bit of Super Metroid. Not really much of Super Metroid, to be honest. And Dread and a couple of the Primes. I think I've finished 1 and 2 and part of 3 a long time ago. And I think what was really cool about this is just that it was like, even if you didn't really know, like, I felt like I didn't know every single bit of lore, and even like, oh, the X and all this, I had to be like, oh yeah, I think I kind of remember what that is. It was still really satisfying. And we always make the joke, unfortunately now it's going to be another 15 years until oh no, this isn't the end, but we're going to get it, don't worry. And it's coming out. And 15 years later.
At this point, we've waited. We can wait longer. I mean, here's the thing. This, all in all, looks like a pretty good time for Metroid, all things considered, compared to where we were in the 2010s, where Federation Force was the big 30th anniversary game.
Yep.
It seems like Nintendo recognizes now, okay, here's what the fans want. Metroidvania is a huge genre now, in indie titles and in just games at large. So obviously we're gonna be feeding the fans what they want. We're giving them the Prime series, maybe with Prime 4 at some point when it's ready. We can wait a little longer. And I think the 2D games are in good hands if Mercury Steam is going to continue developing them, which I don't see any reason why they wouldn't at this point. Probably the next game will be on the next system, but nonetheless, it's looking to be a good time for the fans of Metroid.
Yeah.
Hopefully Castlevania fans will get their due time, but with Konami being what it is, I kind of doubt it.
No, I'm not holding my breath.
Bloodstained is maybe going to be what they have to going forward.
Which is great, by the way. Go check it out.
Hey, I gotta give it a shot. You gave Dread a shot, now I gotta give Bloodstained a shot.
There you go. I will say, though, it is funny now to kind of be part of, like, you, I think, were the first person that I was really, like, talking to who was like, yeah, Metroid. I had friends who liked it. And it is funny now to kind of be, like, to be completely honest, when Metroid Prime 4 comes, whenever, I'm not, like, looking forward to. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll probably get it when it comes out. I'll finish 3 and then do 4 or something like that. But it is funny, like, you and also Vivian, of just like every Nintendo Direct of like, is this the
now that Tears of the Kingdom has come and passed, anything's possible at this point.
That's true.
DK, Metroid, I mean, all the ones I've been holding out for, Zelda's not going to distract from it, so and apparently the reason why this game ran so smooth upon release, well, one, they finished the game before they released it. What a concept now, right? But also apparently they'd been sitting on Dread and Prime Remastered for like a good minute before they actually released them, because they were just waiting for a good moment in the calendar to actually drop them when they weren't going to be competing with like a ton of others, because that's historically been Metroid's issue, is they release alongside these huge games that just totally distract from them. Notably the Halo series, which is obviously aesthetically very similar to Metroid. That happened a lot during the Prime games.
Yeah.
So Ratnado, I think honestly totally valid and fine that you're jumping in at this point with Dread, because it's pretty open to playing without having the other game's knowledge, without even knowing like the lore behind it. Obviously it's a little better if you had played Fusion beforehand, I'd say, but just the boss fights, just the mechanics, just the map, the fact that the game pretty much leads you where it needs to go. It's a pretty linear game, all things considered. You don't really think about it until you're on a replay and you're like, oh, okay, I can pretty much see how the path is just laid out before me, and it just makes sense to continue in the direction I'm going, even though it feels like it's zigzagging all over. And that amplifies itself with the teleportals that take you all over the map. So the next place is actually way across the world, but you have a quick and easy way to get there.
Bad game design.
Bad game design. When you do hard mode, I think you'll start to recognize that and be able to appreciate it on a deeper level, as I have, because I've probably replayed it about 5 or 6 times now, and each time I'm just like, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing, developer.
We make that joke about the God of War guy who was like, this is bad because you didn't see this thing. But I think even in the beginning, like I remember I felt like everything was going pretty smooth for the first like 4 or 5 hours that I played before I came back to it. Everything like there was like a few moments where I was like, I don't know where to go, let me look at the map, and I guess I can't go there, okay, so I must have to go this way. And I mean, in a way I do understand the argument of like, I was joking about that of like, let me shoot all the walls just in case I have to go somewhere, and that's not my favorite, but it wasn't so bad. Like it's pretty it does a pretty good job of like guiding you where you need to go.
Yeah, certainly. I think the difficulty comes from the combat more so than the actual map traversal. In my opinion, obviously, I got lost at one point, you got lost at a few points. We all get lost in Metroid games. That's just totally normal.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's pretty easy to recover compared to some of the more obtuse ones like Zero Mission and Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Love those, but it's easy to get lost in them, as is kind of the point.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, I feel like we're in good hands. Mercury Steam's games have just been getting better and better ever since they've dabbled in the Metroidvania genre. They've been the only studio to ever tackle both sides of the Metroid and Vania.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I'm looking to maybe go back and try out their Lords of Shadows games at some point. I know those are like pretty combat heavy as well. But hey, I'm a Castlevania boy sometimes, so might as well give them a shot. All right, Ratnado. I feel like we've talked about Dread enough. The planet is about to explode, so everyone say your goodbyes. I will say my goodbye now. I'm SqatCobblr of the Scrollies Podcast. You can catch me on YouTube, Twitch, and anywhere else that you see the SqatCobblr name.
There you go.
I've been playing the Metroid 2 games. Metroid 2 Return of Samus I just finished up, as well as AM2R. Samus Returns is underway. And on the YouTube, we're doing a Let's Play of Metroid Prime 2. How about you, Ratnado?
Hey, it's Team Ratnado. I just finished Dread. I'm working on Tears of the Kingdom. That's probably what I'll be playing up to RatCon, which is going to happen very soon, May 26th to 29th, so that'll be done after this. Get ready for a bunch of stuff. We're locked in, we're ready to go, and we're going to start getting ready for content for you to listen to, for everyone, and all the friends who are going. Last thing, we are tentatively looking for another raider for current content in Final Fantasy XIV, a healer. If you or someone you know wants to try out some current raiding, we have some stipulations. We might help you get some current gear. We're crafting up a storm. Vivian and MP and Ultra are busy just making materials. Come check us out.
We out here recruiting, folks. Send in your resumes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and we'll see you next mission.
Bye. I mean, the baby.
Jedi Survivor, let's just say I, at the moment, cannot even launch the game, so that makes me very sad. And I think I'm going to put it on the back burner for a couple months until patches come out, until I can actually enjoy it for what it is and not for how it performs. So it's a sad reality, Ratnado.
The good news is, though, about that is like when you have that kind of an issue, they're going to discount it. So if you're a patient gamer, they're going to discount it even quicker because we got to keep selling it. We got to keep copies going. So hopefully, you know, in 3 months, you're getting it for $35 or something like that.
Yeah, it's too bad I already paid full price for it, plus the deluxe add-on with the Han Solo skin.
Oh, God. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you might want to cut that out then. You might want to cut that out.
Mortgage my home for it.
Oh, man.
I'm a sucker for skins. What can I say?